Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all, and tonight I'm going to go over the rest of the leaks here, at least the part of the leaks that's interesting. I was requested that, or not requested, but one of my longtime viewers, Southern Hostile, said that he was interested in both Chimera and Despia that were leaked. I will go ahead on the record and say I have no idea what Zero Links Meta leaks is. I don't know why Dual Links Meta has stopped leaking things. So I don't know how credible these leaks are. But whatever. Content is content. You guys want to see this? Let's talk about it. So apparently Despia is coming in, yeah, and that's to be expected, right? We've been getting every main box, which is like every 2 months, has been a new like branded storyline card. First we got Dogmatica, then branded, then we got Dogmatica and branded at the same time. Then we got Spring-Ins, and then they got like branded, where it was just like, oh, now we can have actual fusion cards. And then next up is going to be Despia, and then after that's going to be Sword Soul. And somewhere in there will be Tri. Oh no, we already got Tri Brigade. Tri Brigade was, I think Tri Brigade was first, wasn't it? Tri Brigade was first or second. Tri Brigade came early, and then we are probably going to get Sprite and Therian at some point. The branded storyline is a whole mess. Don't ask me. Regardless, Despia makes sense for the timeline. Despia is a very fun deck. In particular, I really like playing Despia with Dark Lords. I do not play branded Despia. Branded Despia is really stupid, except for exactly Masquerade the Blazing Dragon. So I made one time I was thinking that I'll try branded Despia, and I literally just made a deck that turboed 3 Masquerade the Blazing Dragons, and that's all I did, and it was super fun. But otherwise, Dark Lord Despia is way more fun than anything that branded can do. All right. Despia is a deck full of fairy monsters, and they focus around fusion summoning, and they are exceptionally good at it, and in particular they combine light and dark monsters. And most of the Despia cards are dark, if I remember correctly. Yes, all of the Despian monsters except for Quem are dark. So you need light monsters to combine with that. Some people play branded, other people play Dark Lords, other people play what's another Despia deck that I've heard of? There was another one. There was like a third one that was kind of popular when Despia first came out. That was before like the real branded support had come out. I can't remember. Now, as far as what cards we are supposedly getting, it looks like most of them. We're not getting. This is the list of all the Despian cards, and we're not getting Lulu Walleth, Branded Banishment, Guiding Quem the Virtuous, and Greg Wignall the Dust Dragon, but that makes sense. Those 4 cards are not really Despian cards. They're more like a Despia branded package, because those cards came later as like a way to tie branded all together. In the same way that Kashtira Overlap isn't really a Kashtira card, it's like a Visa Starfrost card, right? So I don't mind that we're missing some of the Despian cards, because none of them matter, except for Quem, but Quem is fine. You don't need Quem to play Despia. So let's talk about the actual Despian cards that we are supposedly getting. No skill as far as I know, but that's perfectly fine. First up, the most important card in Despia is the field spell Despia Theater of the Branded. And I have like 8 people typing about Aluber right now. Shut up. Despia Theater of the Branded is a field spell that says during your main phase, you can fusion summon 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If a face-up non-fusion fairy monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect or is destroyed by battle, you can target 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it. You can only use each effect of Despia Theater of the Branded once per turn. So this is polymerization as a searchable field spell that you can do every turn. And that's really, if you want a dedicated fusion deck, you need some way to recur your fusions, because fusing is inherently minus. It is very difficult to resolve a dedicated fusion deck, because Fusions are not synchro or exceeds. You have to use a card effect to make them, just like how it's very difficult to make a dedicated ritual deck for the same reason. So Chimera Fusion has the ability to just return itself from the graveyard to the hand once per turn. That's really good. That's good recursion. Despia Theater the Branded does not go to the graveyard. It just chills on your board and gives you an extra benefit, which is also very good. Now, what do you make with this? You make the first Dark Lord if you are any sort of actual gamer. The first Dark Lord is a level 12 fairy monster that is a fusion of 3 dark fairy monsters, which could be Aluber, Dramaturge, and Morningstar. Cool. Your opponent cannot target fairy monsters you control with card effects. Not Dark Lords, fairies. That affects all your Despian cards, all your Dark Lord cards. It's fantastic. Also, this card is a super rare, in case you guys forgot. Insanely good card. You can only use the first effect of... you can only use one of the following effects of the first Dark Lord per turn, only once that turn. If this card is fusion summoning using Dark Lord Morningstar as a material, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. Unlikely to happen. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points, special summon 1 fairy monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. Amazing effect. Excellent. That lets you, like... that lets you trigger Aluber again. It'll let you bring back your Dramaturge and use Dramaturge's effect. Just a really, really powerful engine for Despia. And you can make it. You could literally make it with a bunch of like you don't have to use a single Dark Lord card. You can fuse all of the Despian cards into this as long as you have 3 of them. But I mean, you guys aren't here to listen to me talk about angels for like 30 minutes. You're here to listen about fairies in general. So sure, let's talk about the rest of it. Despia Theater of the Brand is a fantastic card. The fact that it allows you to special summon your fusion monsters from the graveyard if a non-fairy fusion monster is destroyed by card effect is really good, or destroyed by battle. Now you might think, well, won't they just destroy the fusion monsters first? Yes, but here's the thing. Aluber the Jester of Despia, Dramaturge of Despia, Ad Libitum of Despia, and Despian Comedy all have the ability to recur themselves in various circumstances after they've been used as material or after there's a fusion monster on your field. So a lot of times your opponent will try and remove one of your fusion monsters and you will respond by bringing back one of your non-fusion monsters. Then your opponent has to get through that too, and that results in the field spell bringing back the fusion monster to begin with, which is a loop that's kind of difficult to get out of. Even in Master Duel, it's a little bit difficult to cycle through a skilled Despia player's ability to just constantly like recycle and shuffle between fusion and non-fusion. In Duel Links, I think it will be very difficult. So keep an eye out. Despia Theater of the Branded is probably the card that I think most people are going to sleep on, which is a huge mistake. All right. Now I'll talk about Aluber for all the people who are freaking out about Aluber in the comments. Aluber, the Jester of Despia. This is a level 4 Dark Fairy monster. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which will typically be your Despia Theater of the Branded, but it could also be Branded Opening or Branded in red. You can also use it to search Branded Fusion, but Branded Fusion is not in Duel Links. If a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, special summon this card, and if you do, negate the targeted monster's effects until the end of the turn. So yes, Aluber also has the ability to float. So when your fusion monster is destroyed, you then summon Aluber back, you negate one of your opponent's cards, which is really useful because you're negating it from the graveyard. Like, you're activating an effect in the graveyard to target one of your opponent's monsters. What are they going to do? Are they going to negate the effect, negate and destroy the effect? Aluber's still already dead. They can't, like, if they negate and destroy the effect, they aren't actually removing a card from your field. I mean, they are technically preventing Aluber from coming back, but they're not destroying, so they're missing out on value. So then Aluber comes back, and then if your opponent destroys Aluber, then your field spell will then bring back the fusion monster that was used, that Aluber used to come back. So, and then of course, if Aluber, I was going to say, of course, Aluber recycles when it comes back, but it specifically says that you can only use 1 Aluber effect per turn, specifically to prevent that from happening, because that would be insane. Aluber's already a really good card. It doesn't need to search when it comes back. It just negates cards. Very good card. Easy 3 of course. The main starter of Despian, and you'll probably play 3 copies of Branded Opening as well, which just it lets you summon a Luber so that you can get your starter. So it's a good card. We'll talk about Branded Opening next because of a Luber. Branded Opening is a quick play spell card that says discard 1 card, then take a Despian monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. Also, for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters. If a fusion monster you control will be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only use each effect once per turn. That's really, really good. It's a good card if it gets milled, which Branded loves to do. It's a good card if it gets activated. You could special summon a Luber and use its effect to search. You could special summon Ad Libitum and use it to fusion summon. You could special summon your Dramaturge of Despia during your opponent's turn and then activate its effect to negate a card. You could special summon... no, those are your only targets. You're not going to special summon Tragedy or Comedy. But regardless, great card. So you'll probably play 3 Branded Openings, probably 3 Alubers, and maybe like 1 Despia Theater of the Branded because it's so easily searchable. Let's talk about the last spell card just to get it out of the way, because that way we can, you know what your Aluber targets are. Branded in red is a quick play spell card that says target 1 Despian monster or Fallen of Albaz in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and then you can apply the following effect. Fusion summon 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing monsters listed on it from your hand or your field, but it cannot attack directly this turn. Branded in red is... Branded in red is the primary way that you can make the first Dark Lord during your opponent's turn, and if you have Morning Star, it lets you nuke your opponent's board, which is really, really good, and I'm not saying that's not. But, as far as what, like, a pure Despia deck would use it for, most likely you would use it to make Proskenion to dodge removal. Like, you're not... Branded in red lets you summon during your opponent's turn, but typically speaking, you would make the most important pieces of your combo on your turn. Especially Masquerade. Like, you're not going to make Masquerade in the middle of your opponent's turn. So, Branded in red is going to be like, oh, my opponent is going to destroy my Quaratus. Rather than letting Quaratus die, I'm going to play Branded in red and use it to make Proskenion, and now my Quaratus is no longer a valid target for whatever effect my opponent uses. That's good, and I'm not trying to downplay that. I'm just saying that this is not like a card that you're going to... Branded in red is a card that a lot of people tend to overrate. It's very, very useful for removal, dodging. It's very, very useful for allowing you to surprise your opponent with what you have in your extra deck. But you have to actually play like cards that aren't Despian cards to throw your opponent off if you're going to do that. But it's not a card that you're going to typically play during your turn. A lot of times you just mill it and then set it with what's his name? Albion the Branded Dragons of Albion the Branded Dragon. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's not like this is not a card you're typically going to search with a Luber, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. I'm sorry, it's 5 a.m. and this is like what, the 6th video that I've made today, so I'm tired. Okay. That's all of these. We'll cover the other 2 like mini monsters first. Despian Tragedy is a level 1 fairy monster. If this card is set to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can add 1 Despian monster from your deck to your hand except Tragedy. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 branded spell or trap in your graveyard and send it to your field. You can only use 1 Tragedy effect per turn, only once that turn. Despian Tragedy sees play in Branded Despia because you can mill it with Branded Fusion, which triggers its effect, but as far as sending it to the graveyard or banished by card effect in Despia, basically the only way you can do that is by using it as fusion material. You can't, and it's important to note that discarding the card for the cost of branded opening is not sending it to the graveyard by card effect. So you can't use branded opening to trigger this. You have to use either Despia Theater of the Branded or Branded Red. And that's the other thing that's annoying, is that Despians don't have a monster effect that allows them to fusion summon, except for Cartesia. But Cartesia's not coming. So this card lets you draw a Luber usually, or if you already have a Luber and you don't feel like you need another Luber, you can use it to get ad libitum. You can also use it to get Dramaturge if you need Dramaturge, which is unlikely. I feel like if you're already fusion summoning, like, Dramaturge should be in your rotation array, but bricks happen. And then you use this card to set. Here's the awkward thing about Despian Tragedy is that because the effect lets you set a branded trap to your field, they intentionally made the branded spells both quick play spells so that they can't be activated the turn that they get set. So Despian Tragedy, if you use its effect to try and set a card, the only card you could activate that turn if you're using the effect during your main phase is Theater of the Branded. Otherwise, you have to wait until next turn to use the effect. So it's less useful than it sounds. It's still a really good recursion effect, but Despian Tragedy is probably a safe one of, if you play it at all. You probably still play it. This is like a question of whether you want to play pure Despia or Despian Dark Lords. If you're going to play Despian Dark Lords, you probably cut Tragedy, to be honest. Despian Comedy is a level 1 Dark Fairy monster. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a face-up Despia card you control, you can discard this card and negate the effect. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 1 fusion monster and special summon this card. You can only use 1 Despian Comedy effect per turn, only once that turn. It's an interesting idea that you contribute a fusion monster to summon a monster that's objectively bad. Again, this is kind of like the same thing as Branded in Red in that you can use it to dodge removal. Which the question is dodging removal by getting a 0 attack 2000 defense monster in your field instead of having nothing, is that change worth running a 0 attack 2000 defense monster? The targeting protection is pretty decent, but it doesn't destroy the card that it negates. And Masquerade the Blazing Dragon is not a Despian monster. So this will only protect Briskinion and Quaratus. It will not protect Masquerade. I feel like Comedy is another card that you just cut. You just play Dark Lords instead. Alright. Now we get on to the big baddies. So Dramaturge of Despia is an insane card. It's a level 8 Dark Fairy monster with 3,000 attack points and 1,500 defense points. Remember that branded opening forces you to summon the monster in defense position. So even though you can special summon this card from your deck, it has to be in defense position, therefore you can't use it to beat over people. If a Fusion, Synchro, Exceeds, or Link monster is special summoned, except during the damage step, you can target 1 effect monster on the field and negate its effect until the end of the turn. So that's both you and your opponent. If you Fusion summon, you can negate one of your opponent's monster effects. If they Link summon, you can negate one of their monster effects. It's a really, really cool effect. It's very useful to you, and that's part of the reason why Branded in Red allows you to Fusion summon during your opponent's turn, so that you could say, "Whoa, hold on, I don't want you to Stratos. Real quick, let's Fusion summon." That wouldn't work. Pretend that I chose an ignition effect. Vion. I don't want you to Vion. If this card in your hand or field is used as fusion material and sent to the graveyard or banished, you can special summon this card. So this card is a card that you will very frequently cycle specifically with Branded in Red. So you can, because with Branded in Red, you one of the biggest problems with Branded in Red, which is why it doesn't see a ton of play, and like it's a card that definitely gets played in like a pure branded list, like a branded Despia type of list, but it causes problems for people who don't know how to use it because you banish the wrong cards and then you've lost that material. Despia is way better at managing that than Branded is. because all their monsters have effects when they get banished. But you definitely want to focus on, if you have to play branded in red, you want to try and make sure that Dramaturge of Despia is one of the targets, so that you can recycle it immediately. Just a good card overall. It's a big threat. It has 3,000 attack points. It can negate a card, and then if your opponent will be forced to remove this, and the second that they do, your field spell will bring back one of your fusion monsters. So as you can see, the cycle between non-fusion and fusion becomes especially dangerous with this card. And of course, you can also revive it with the first Dark Lord. Next up, we have Ad Libitum of Despia. This is a level 8 Dark Fairy as well. It has 1,500 attack points and 2,000 defense points. During your main phase, you can make all face-up monsters currently on the field gain attack equal to their level times 100 until the end of your opponent's turn. So this is a thing that Quadratus focuses on, and also Ad Libitum. It's like a minor Despian thing. The idea that the higher level fusion monsters gain power from being high level. Basically, it lets you punish Link and Xyz decks because they don't have levels. In the same way that, or Sartic Septentrion punishes Link and Xyz decks because they don't have levels. Kind of like a way, I mean, there was like a big thing in Arc V where it was just like, oh, you know, there's a clash of all these different summoning mechanics, so that all these different summoning mechanics got printed with cards, card effects that fight each other. Which is a cool idea, I guess. This is not that useful. 800 attack points is not going to change anything. If this card is sent to the graveyard, if this card is used as fusion material for a fusion summon from the hand or field and sent to the graveyard or banished, you can target one of your Despian monsters or one of your level 8 or higher fusion monsters that is banished or in your graveyard, except Ad Libitum, and special summon it. You can only use each effect once per turn. So Ad Libitum is an excellent way to constantly loop your other cards. The main thing you have to worry about is that it's a very tempting branded in red target, but once you brand it in red Ad Libitum of Despia, it's gone forever. Still, it is like a very valid brand in red target. So just kind of you have to be cautious with this card. The best way to use it, of course, is to recycle a Luber's effect during your opponent's turn. So if you are in a situation where you don't feel threatened, like if your opponent is on their back foot because you successfully controlled their board, you don't want to waste your once per turn effects. So rather than allowing your opponent to just end their turn, you will then respond with Branded in Red, and you would use your Ad Libitum as material to bring back your Luber from the graveyard, even though one of your monsters wasn't destroyed, and then Luber can search a branded spell card for you, so you can potentially make more plays next turn. Then you also have a Luber on the board as material. So that's one of the ways that you use Ad Libitum as a way of to make sure that you can be aggressive against an opponent that you've successfully beaten. That is a win more effect, but it's important that you understand how your win more effects work, because when you're playing a fusion deck, one of the biggest things you have to worry about is running out of resources and not securing the game. So when you are winning, you need to win as fast as possible when you are playing fusion. Okay. That's all of the main deck monsters. So this next up, we talk about the fusions. Of course, this is a fusion deck, and the main monster for Despia is Masquerade the Blazing Dragon. This is the most based card that was ever printed. A fantastic monster, because basically what Masquerade the Blazing Dragon does is it doesn't do anything against a regular player. If someone's like, okay, I'm going to summon 2 monsters and I'm going to set 1 and pass. Cool. Masquerade doesn't do much. But against someone who's like, alright, I summon Firewall Defensor. I link it into Link Decoder. Then I'm going to use Firewall Defensor's effect to revive itself. Firewall Defensor special summons Firewall Guardian. Now I link Link Decoder and Firewall Guardian into Splash Mage. And then I'll use Splash Mage's effect to revive my Link Decoder, and then Firewall Guardian will also come back, but it gets banished when it leaves the field. Now I'm going to link my Link Decoder and my Splash Mage into Transcode Talker, and that brings back Link Decoder from the graveyard. Now I'll use Transcode Talker to revive Splash Mage, and then I can use all 3 of these monsters to go into my Ace monster, Firewall Dragon. What is the Link 6 called? Wow, I am really tired. Singularity. Okay. Okay, so when that happens, when you run into that kind of player, Masquerade the Blazing Dragon just sits there and says, all right, every time you open your mouth, you're going to put 300 life points in the cringe jar. So opponent's like, all right, I link summon Firewall Defensor. Now I can use this effect, 300 life points. All right, now I make Link Decoder, and then I'm going to use these 2 monsters to make Splash Mage. And now Splash Mage revives Link Decoder, and Firewall Guardian revives itself. 300, 300. All right, now I'm going to link into Transcode Talker and revive my Splash Mage. 300. Like, it just burns your opponent every time they do something. While you control this fusion summon card, your opponent must pay 600 life points to activate cards or effects. It's a fusion of a Despian monster plus 1 light or dark monster. So that could be a Dark Lord. If your opponent controls a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz or Link monster while this card is in your graveyard, quick effect, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect once per turn. And while it's revived, it obviously does not have its effect because it says while you control this Fusion Summon card, your opponent has to pay life points. This effect stacks with itself. So if you make 3 Masquerades, your opponent will have to pay 900 life points per card that they activate, which means that they can only activate 3 cards. Or no, 4 cards. They can only activate 4 cards. Which is really, really good. So, yeah, Masquerade is a fantastic boss monster, and one of my favorite ways to play the game. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. Next up is Despian Quadratus. This is the actual, like, threat for Despia. Despian Quadratus is a level 8 light fiend monster. So this is, I think, the only light monster in Despia other than Quem and Lulolith. It's a fusion of a Despian monster plus a light or dark, just like Masquerade the Blazing Dragon is. It has 2,500 attack points. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can change the attack of all monsters on the field to 0 until the end of the turn, except level 8 or higher fusion monsters. So, same thing as Ad Libitum, and Quadratus appears to be Ad Libitum's fusion summon. If this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can add to your hand or special summon 1 Fallen of Albaz or 1 Despian monster from your deck. So, being able to special summon Albaz during your opponent's turn is obviously insane. You can just activate its effect immediately, discard a card, and then use one of your opponent's monsters as fusion material and make a big boss monster. It's really good. You can also use this to special summon a Despian monster, which would probably be your Dramaturge if your opponent doesn't have a way to out-Dramaturge, and then that will let you chain with your field spell so that you can bring back your Quadratus. It's just a good card overall. One of the main things that makes Quadratus so difficult to deal with is if your opponent successfully removes it, you can just respond to that by making all their monsters attack points 0. And then unless they have the ability to continue like Synchro or linking off, they're not going to be able to kill you. So it's a really cool idea. I actually really like Despian Quadratus's design. And I feel like it's a very fair card, and I think that you guys will do well with it. Lastly, we have Despian Priscinion. This is a fusion of a Despian monster plus a light and a dark monster. So it's the only monster so far that's required 3 materials. Level 11, 3200 attack, 3200 defense. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can target 1 fusion, synchro, Xyz, or link monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, or special summon it to your field. That is disgustingly good. So you just take one of your opponent's monsters and beat them to death with it, or you banish it. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack or defense, whichever is higher. You can only use each effect once per turn. That's a good card. Okay, so as far as like a deck, hold on, let's build this. For the skill, Is one link? What is one link Dark Lord's restrictions again? You cannot normal or special summon monsters except Dark Lord monsters. Okay, well we can't do that. Okay, so we can't play One Winged Dark Lord, which is unfortunate. Why would they do that? Is there a skill that makes you start the game with Sanctuary in the sky in the game in the play? No, I don't think so. I assume there's going to be a Despian skill, but I haven't seen anything leaked yet. I'm stupid. LP boost F8 is what it's, no, hold on. F8. Life point, yeah. Life point boost F8. That's the one. Yeah. So life point boost F8, which is you gain 1600 life points, then you gain 800 life points every time you fusion summon a monster that's level 8. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so LP boost F8. Why is this site so terrible? Now it's not letting me pick a skill. What is going on? There we go. LP boost F8. Alright, and then probably 1 Proskinion, 1 Quadratus, 3 Masquerades. 1 Ad Libitum, 1 Dramaturge, triple Eluber, triple Branded Opening, 1 Branded in Red. I'm gonna go with 2 Theaters, I think. Alright, 2 first Dark Lords, and then, what was this, 3, 6, 8, okay, and then 2 Condemned Dark Lords. Ixchel is at 3, that's right. 3 Ixchels. 3 Banishments. 1 Superbia, 1 Morningstar, and 1 Contact, maybe? Do we have to go above 20 for this? No, this is fine. This is plenty of Dark Fairies. How many Dark Lord cards do we have for Ixchel? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That should be okay. Yeah, this is fine. Okay. There you go. So this is the deck. We we summon a Luber effect, grab the field spell, activate the field spell, fuse a Luber with probably Dramaturge, make Masquerade, and then pass. Sure, seems fine. And then if you have Brandon in red, you can just set Brandon in red and then make the first Dark Lord during your opponent's turn. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so I think you guys will enjoy this deck. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.